Hi, Josh. Welcome to the High Vibration Living Podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. Of
Well, for those that aren't familiar with you and your brand and your restaurant, can you do a brief introduction?
course. My name is Josh Liebowitz. I am the founder of Vibe Organic Kitchen. We have three all organic restaurants in Orange County, and our goal is to rethink food to live the longest, healthiest life.
And you started the first Vibe location back in 2017, right?
Yeah, the original location opened in Newport Beach, April 1st, 2017.
And where did the idea for this concept come from?
So I've always been very into food in all aspects. I love food. I love cooking. I love going out to restaurants. Um, when I was in college, I got a lot more into health and wellness. So focused my cooking more on really clean proteins, on making cauliflower rice instead of regular rice, all those kinds of things. And after college, moved to Miami. Was doing some corporate stuff for a few years, and after hanging out with some chef friends, was convinced to go to culinary school in my mid 20s, which I did. I went to Johnson and Wales in Miami. Um, Started cooking in some restaurants out there, and really knew that food was something I wanted to take more seriously as a career. And ever since then, the goal was always to develop my own style of food, my own concept, and the wheels were in place from then to create my own thing.
So, a lot of people think when they go out to eat, if they choose a place that's quote unquote they think is healthy, that it's going to be a healthy meal and make them feel good afterwards, and that it's going to, add to their health and well being. But you and I know as chefs and people who have worked in restaurants, not every restaurant's ethos on the outside matches what's in the kitchen. How do you like to talk to your friends and your clients about what's different in your restaurant front of house and back of house than others?
Well, there's a huge difference between the food people would typically make and eat for themselves at home versus the food that they would be sold in a restaurant. Um, Food service products are often bigger, cheaper, faster alternates to healthier things that we would use. The most obvious example of that is cooking oils. So at home, uh, most people would never dream of using canola oil, vegetable oil, all these nasty oils that we thought were maybe good for us a generation ago. But in restaurants, these things are prevalent. Our food is saturated in really nasty industrial cooking oils. Um, Organics, little to nothing of what you sold in a restaurant is organic. The fact is that most restaurants, and I can't blame them for it, they're a business and they're running their restaurant on a spreadsheet. If you can buy two boxes of tomatoes and they're for the most part relatively similar, and they're not going to make that much difference to the final product in terms of what the average customer might perceive. One box is $30 and one box is $80, and then you multiply that out over multiple boxes a week over the course of a year. It could be a $50,000 swing just to switch the type of tomatoes that you're using. And for an average operator, that's the difference between making money or not making money. For an individual operator, that's sending your kids to school for the year. So it's very difficult to make these decisions when you're not obligated to in your name, essentially.
Yeah, I'd love to know when you go out to eat with your friends or your family or just by yourself when you're traveling, how do you decide what you're going to order on a menu? And what are the types of questions that you tend to ask the waiter that's supporting you?
Well, let me start by saying I think everyone just has to live a little. So there's obviously ideals and ideal situations for everything. The reality is, you can make yourself crazy if you go so deep. So you do have to know to an extent, if you're going to go out, you are exposing yourself to certain things, unless you're coming to a restaurant like Vibe, for example. But in general, there's a lot of great food out there. There's a lot of great social experiences that happen around food. And sometimes we just need to, you know, it's almost a case of the less you know, the better sometimes. With that being said, there are things that you can do to essentially minimize your exposure to junk. Um, knowing that most foods are fried in really nasty oil that becomes essentially more and more toxic every time the oil gets heated and cooled and reheated. Many restaurants aren't changing their frying oil every day or not often at all. So in general, avoiding fried foods is a relatively safe start. There's obviously questions you can ask about what types of oil your food's being cooked in. Can you use cleaner alternatives such as olive oil or butter? And that's a good start, but I think both of us probably know just from restaurants, those questions aren't necessarily well received. Very often, you might be able to ask a very nice server, "Hey, can you ask the chef to cook my steak in olive oil?" He's going to say, "Certainly." And you're going to think you're getting olive oil. But in reality, the guy's going straight back to the kitchen. The chef's laughing and saying, "Yeah, no problem. We'll cook it in olive oil," and doing nothing different. The
Yeah,
second
you
part
know,
of that, ironically, is that most restaurants, they're saying, yes, we'll cook it in olive oil, but almost every restaurant is using an olive oil blend as it is. A standard restaurant olive oil would be 51% olive oil, 49% canola oil. So even if you're getting your cooked steak in that, it's nominally better.
yes, I think you bring up some important points that I really wish that, my friends, my family, my clients, the customers would know and really understand. Is even at some of the best farm to table restaurants, your salad dressing isn't made with 100% olive oil. Your salad dressing has generic white sugar added to it so you like it better. Those roasted Brussels sprouts aren't roasted, they're put into the fryer with everything else that's put into the fryer. Your breakfast potatoes aren't these beautiful cast iron skillet or roasted breakfast potatoes, they're put into the fryer.
Hmm.
Um, there's a way that food is cooked in a restaurant to give you a texture and a flavor and also a speed to get it out to you at a certain time. And so it's done a certain way. And I'm sure you've experienced this when you try to cook for people at home or in their home, they want the food to turn out like the restaurant, but you can't because you don't have that type of equipment. Have you faced that, when you've tried to cook for people at home that they want something done a certain way and you can't recreate it because you don't have the same restaurant equipment?
Late. I mean, again, that comes back to most people not realizing that almost everything they get in a restaurant is thrown in a deep fryer. It's a very fast, easy, consistent way to heat something and to crisp something at the same time. And also, a lot of restaurants are using things like turbo chef ovens, which on the surface are relatively innocent. And maybe I'm going a bit deep here, but a
No.
turbo chef is essentially what Starbucks would use to reheat a panini or a baked good. Those are essentially very high-powered microwave ovens. And yeah, personally, just not something that while they have a lot of great benefits and they can crisp things up and heat things very quickly, the microwave technology is just not something that we really feel so great about using at our restaurants.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. I've had multiple people on this podcast to help me bash microwaves because it's my dream to get everyone off the microwave and to make that machine obsolete because it's a negative frequency. And so, if you're going to put a negative frequency in your food, you're putting that negative frequency in your body, defeats the purpose of eating food, which is for a transfer of energy, right? And that I think comes back to the concept of your restaurant vibe, energy, frequency. It's a choice.
Hmm. I completely agree with all of that. And another secondary effect of a microwave that I feel not enough people draw attention to is the fact that you're almost always heating something up in plastic in the microwave itself. It's in that, in a takeaway container or in a plastic container of some kind. So obviously the microwave itself is questionable, but then you're talking about all this like hot plastic leaching into your food, so you kind of just opening the door for a lot of bad energy, essentially.
Yeah, I think it's really amazing that you've been able to create a restaurant here in Orange County with 3 locations that really have a strong cult following and a great trust. People really trust, believe, and know that the food that you guys are putting out and serving it is what's on the menu. They feel good after eating your food. And I, as a personal chef, along with my team, we often get clients that say, just make us food that's like vibe, you know, and which I think is such a beautiful compliment. How have you been able to create trust and consistency for so many years now? That's a really hard thing to do.
Thank you for the kind words. Um, it comes down to a couple things. Firstly, Vibe was Vibe was founded almost as a bit of an anti-restaurant. I wanted to create the food that people were cooking at home in a restaurant. And I remember when I first started working in restaurants, I was almost grossed out when I was aware of all these like special food service products that were being used. And my goal from day one is I want a restaurant where you walk into the kitchen and the pantry looks like the shelf at Whole Foods. I don't want to see all these huge cans and, we don't use any cans. And I don't want to see big buckets and food service equivalents of things. I want to see all the great organic brands that I like to buy. I want to see beautiful produce. And so that was part of the founding principles of Vibe. And the other thing is when we put in the name Vibe Organic Kitchen, we hold ourselves to the standard of being all organic. And that's not, not trying to bash anyone, but I feel like a lot of restaurants are almost guilty of greenwashing, where they they do a couple things that show perception of being relatively healthy, but in reality that draws attention away from all the other things they're doing that are not. So for example, you might go to a place and you might start reading a list of ingredients in a salad, and they'll say spinach, celery, organic apples, avocado, this, that, that. And just by throwing in the word organic in front of the apples, okay, maybe the apples are organic, but all the other 10 things that are arguably more important to be organic are not organic. A lot of restaurants or even grocery stores, they create the perception of healthy by their beautiful design. And, oh, I assume they're so healthy because it's so great in here. Or oh, look, so many restaurants, it blows my mind. They'll buy their veggies at the farmer's market and then they'll cook them in canola oil. So there's lots of shortcuts being taken, and the goal of Vibe is to be an incredibly healthy restaurant, a place you can eat every single day. I'm very conscious of the connection between food and disease, and we want to be a restaurant where everything truly fights disease. Whereas many restaurants, they come at it from the opposite standpoint, where almost everything that you get in a restaurant is feeding disease.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, food should be your medicine. And I think people, when they hear like food is medicine, they think maybe more herbal tinctures or very specific recipes that are created just for healing a certain ailment. But I think you should be able to have food as pleasure and joy and as medicine. It can all be the same thing. And that there should be, you're not choosing food to heal a sickness. You're choosing food to keep you energized and vibrant and moving forward and better experiencing life. Um,
Mhm.
that it shouldn't be there to fix a problem. It should just be there to continue to fuel you.
Absolutely. And then the challenge that, kind of where both of us come in is we want to make this food that's so healthy and clean, but it has to be freaking delicious. And essentially, we're only going to succeed in our mission, essentially, if the version of food that we're trying to make is just as delicious as the version of food that we don't want people to eat. That's kind of what drives me. And as a team in our restaurant every day, yeah, we want to make this crazy healthy kind of hardcore food, but we have to put it in a very, very friendly package that's delicious and that's craveable for everyone.
That's true, but I also believe, and maybe it's because I'm on the other side, is that it also has to be profitable for you. So you and the chefs and the team can't make themselves sick by trying to deliver a high quality, healthy, nourishing meal to your community and not have a reciprocation of energy. And so I think that's where um, there's a miscommunication with sometimes the customer is we want to, as chefs and as business owners, get people healthy, high vibration food. But there's a price to that. What's been a challenge that you've maybe had with the customer to help them understand food costs? Because it keeps changing.
One of the biggest issues um, with, let's say, the American public is that people demand, people essentially rate or review a place based on how much food you get for how little price. There's a lot of pressure on restaurants to deliver bigger portions for less money. And the only way to essentially do that is by buying cheaper substitutes and worse equivalents of ingredients. And that, that creates a very slippery slope for restaurants. So our goal is we're always going to buy the best product possible. We're always going to charge exactly what we need to charge for it to make it a viable option. And we know that it might not be for everyone, but we know that it's going to be for enough people who actually care about what they're eating and they know that they want uh, their health to be in the restaurant's best interest. I always joke, and I don't mean this in the wrong way, but like our prices should never go down, because if our prices go down, that means we're finding a cheaper substitute or we're finding a worse quality of something. Our prices should only go up because we found a better olive oil or we got a more local kale from a farm. And I think when people realize that, then they know that the restaurant has their health in that, we are truly trying to serve the best product possible. And we don't want to ever cut corners. We don't want to ever succumb to pressure to reduce something, um, to make something cheaper. We just want to make sure we're serving the best product possible. Then there's things you can do on the restaurant side to make sure that, okay, if we're delivering this ultra premium product that does have, a slightly premium price point, what can we do from a service aspect to deliver extra value proposition and make sure people love it? Are we welcoming people with little complimentary juice shots like we like to do? Are we handing out little samples of banana bread at the end of people's meals? Things like that to make sure that people who are potentially a little sensitive to the price point are still getting an awesome value proposition. And we just want to make sure we're serving absolutely the best food possible, and ultimately that's what we feel good about.
I'd love to know, what do you tend to eat on an average day? What's your typical kind of go-to breakfast right now during the summer? What's your favorite lunch at the moment? And what do you tend to make when you get home for dinner?
Great question. um, I drink a lot of coffee, so I usually start my day with a cup of coffee. I like to exercise, typically without eating anything. Then I'll go to the restaurant and chug a huge green juice. Right now with lots of cilantro is what I'm into. I love putting like a full bunch of cilantro in each juice. It's great, makes me feel great in the morning. And then it really depends. I'll do the rounds from the restaurants and normally just start grazing. So everyone laughs at me because as soon as I get into one of the restaurants, I'm straight into the kitchen. I'm dipping, I'm making little plates with a little bit of everything, trying to try all the sauces. And I'm obsessed with roasted broccoli. So normally that's my vessel to kind of dip into each thing and make sure the hummus is tasting great, make sure the guacamole is tasting great.
Yeah.
Normally by the time I've done that at all three restaurants, I'm pretty full. So I'm not eating that much besides maybe some scraps of a banana bread or some scraps of a cookie that's laying around until dinner. Dinner varies. I may be eating in the restaurants. So right now we're testing a few new menu updates for September, which is great. Mostly revolved around breakfast burritos. So I've been eating way too many breakfast burritos for dinner lately. So that's been good. But on a regular night, I'll come home, me and my girlfriend. Obviously, we eat very clean. We'll usually cook some protein, either some very clean grass-fed beef. I'm very into this venison from Maui Nui venison.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like what wild venison. It's very humane. There's they essentially have to do like population management of venison in Maui because they're invasive. So if they're gonna, if you're gonna have to take the animal's life, it's a very healthy, clean animal. We may as well eat it. So I'm very into eating that. It's very lean. It's very humane. It's very sustainable. So dinner is normally, some lean meat, some veggies, and obviously I like to go out and eat a lot too. I love if I'm not in my restaurant eating, I like going to friends' restaurants and eating, supporting
Ooh.
them. And that is maybe a time where I throw some of my morals out the window a little bit and I indulge. But there's a lot of great food around here, and I love to support what's going on.
Yeah, the 80-20 rule, you have to
Absolutely.
enjoy life. You can't be, too strict. What are some of the restaurants that you enjoy going to in Orange County or LA County?
Well, we'll start locally in Orange County. Mario's Butcher Shop is a phenomenal place. It's very close to our Newport Beach location. Um, he's doing incredibly clean stuff. Big focus on no seed oils, which we like. So I love supporting there. Problem is, it's got so busy recently that I'm so happy for him, but it's so busy it's hard to get into, which is great. Um, there's some really great pizza places that are popping up in the area. So Truly Pizza in Dana Point is a place that is world class by all aspects of pizza. We're very fortunate to have such a great place close to us. Luckily, that is very close to our Vibe Dana Point location. I try and eat there whenever I'm craving something a little more decadent. The pizza is incredibly high quality. Um, Lots of focus on like the fermentation of the dough, so it's very a lot easier to digest. I really, really love what they're doing. We're very lucky to have them. Um, LA obviously has some great restaurants too, and I try and get up there as much as I can. Um, some places that come to mind that I really love in Venice, Celina.
Hmm.
Um, they're an institute. They've been around for so long. Their menu changes so often. It's unbelievable. They're going to the farmers market every single week. Incredible vegetable section. I love just sitting there for lunch outside, working my way through a lot of the veggies. Maybe have a pizza or a pasta and a glass of wine. It's amazing. And I really don't feel like they get enough credit. They've been around for so long, and there's all these trendy places that come and go. It's still a difficult reservation, and the food is amazing. Um,
Those are some good spots just to get people out and about and trying something new. I appreciate that. And Truly is opening another location in Laguna, and they're a wonderful family. And so what I think is great is when we find these great institutions that also are owned by, a person that's in the community, or a family that's in the community. It really makes, it goes back to what restaurants are supposed to be. And I think a lot of people prefer, there's a group of people that prefer the fast casual or the chain restaurants, but the sacrifice is there's no community connection, and that's where you're gonna lose the quality ingredients.
Absolutely. You completely nailed it. Once you get into those types of restaurants, and look, there's lots of great ones, lots of great food, and I go to all kinds of restaurants, but then you start getting into what I call like spreadsheet restaurants, where the restaurants are being
Yes,
run on spreadsheets and they're not being run,
way to put it.
by heart with people. And that's when you start making these ingredient decisions and things like that yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. What do you wish more customers would know about food before they went out to eat? Like, what do you wish more of your customers would know about your place, so they could make better decisions when ordering?
Um, I wish people knew that making avocado toast isn't just it's so funny. People say, oh, I could make that at home for X amount, and when you go to a restaurant, it's not about making that at home for X amount. There's so many more things that go into getting your food in front of you. So, the huge team that has to show up each day to wash, chop, spin, prep all the veggies, um, the team that has to be there scrubbing the restaurant clean at night, all the extra things that go into making sure that we have an awesome environment and we can serve you great food every day. So, there's a lot of anyone that works in a restaurant is something that I share with my team sometimes is when we work in restaurants, we have a very big responsibility because we have the power to change people's days. When someone comes in to Vibe and they're coming in to get a smoothie that they've been thinking about all day and they can't wait to get off work and come in and get the smoothie, that is the most important. That's the thing they've been looking forward to the most all day. And we owe them a certain amount of excitement and effort when we greet them, and if we do so, we have the ability they're going to leave. They're going to be so happy. They're going to go on and they're going to be so nice to people and they're going to do something great with the rest of their day. If someone's coming in at lunchtime for a lunch and they're at work and they have an amazing experience and we really touch them and we give them some great service and some great food, they're going to go back to the office a little kinder, a little happier. They're going to pass on that good energy to people. And on the flip side, if we don't deliver, or if we don't greet them with excitement and we kind of fall short of their expectations, they're going to go back to work upset. If they had to wait too long, they're going to, and that frustration can compound on the people around them too.
Wow.
I think we have a huge responsibility, and working in a restaurant is it's a privilege because we get to impact so many people's days every single day. And if we have 500 people coming in every day and we're making most of them really, really happy and they're leaving happy and fulfilled and feeling great, they're going to go on and do better things during their day. And that's a privilege and a responsibility and something that I really love about working in restaurants.
Wow. That's Josh, you are a fantastic chef and restaurant owner that you get that. You are like the 1%, but I hope we are at a time where more entrepreneurs and chefs and restaurant owners carry your ethos. I'd love to know, how do you recharge? Because the way you run your restaurants and your commitment to quality control and visiting all the locations, and adding new things to the menu, that takes a lot. So, how do you keep yourself going?
Um, well, it's no secret that I do love to work and I'm present a little too much. But I do love to travel. So when I'm not, when I'm not here, I'm typically, taking a quick trip somewhere. Um, I love traveling. I love eating. It helps me. It inspires me. I love to discover new food and then think how we can recreate that through the vibe lens. Um, so yeah, I love. I just got back from a week in France, which was incredible. Very lucky to be able to do that. I was traveling through some small villages in like the Burgundy wine country, which is it's incredible. I'm a big wine lover. I love the wines of Burgundy in particular. So just being in all these old medieval villages, riding bikes through the different towns and stopping for a little snack here and a little snack there. It was that was pretty surreal.
That's a trip that I've always wanted to take too. I'm really like fascinated with the more French country cuisine. I just love that rustic cuisine where the seasonal vegetables can just be simplified and shine. They don't have to be sliced and manicured in a certain way. And I just, yeah, just all the beauty and simplicity of those regions outside of Paris.
So it sounds like you would love Provence.
Yes, that
So
as well.
Provence, I was there a couple years ago. Amazing town, one of the most amazing farmers markets I've ever seen in the central city called Aix, AIX. And a dish that stood out that I had in a local restaurant that I haven't stopped thinking about. It was exactly what you said, just taking super simple seasonal produce. So they took zucchini, which honestly is probably the worst vegetable. It grows in abundance. It's really not that great. So they took a simple plate of the most amazing zucchini. It was like mandolin sliced very thin, jingled around a round plate. And then on top, it was just so simple. It was really great olive oil. It was a ton of fresh herbs, so like torn basil, torn mint, lots of fresh lemon juice, and then a little bit of like a quite a tart goat cheese just dotted about. It was unbelievable. It was so simple. It was mostly just how good the zucchini and all the herbs and the olive oil were when they came together. Mopped it up with some bread at the end. It was yeah, I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, those are the dishes that I love when I travel. It is really those kind of simple things. There are zucchini dishes actually that I've had on the island of Ischia off the coast of Naples. Multiple zucchini dishes I had over there that I still dream about, that I really just need to take the time to recreate. And it's true. Travel does a great job of getting us, of recharging us and kind of getting us out of our ruts.
I mean, absolutely. And then as chefs, it's the primary source of inspiration. You know, it's kind of funny because years and years ago, I mean, travel is still the best way to see things, but now, with Instagram especially, we get to see ideas so fast, and we can see, what a chef's doing in Australia on one night, and then the next night it could be on a menu here in LA somewhere. And think, the dishes and ideas didn't travel that fast back in the day. So we're very lucky, but there's still no substitute for like slowing down, going somewhere, um, walking the market, seeing the local produce. Um, yeah, it's incredible.
Are there any culinary experience that you are really craving or wanting to have?
That's a great question, because there's so many. Um, I oh man, that's an incredible question. Um, I love Spanish food primarily for how good the ingredients are and their commitment to great simple ingredients. So the Balearic Islands, so like Mallorca, Menorca, Ibiza, in particular, the food there is incredible. I would love to. I'm fortunate that I've been to Mallorca a few times and the food is great. I would love to spend a few weeks there in a town and really kind of just, set up my own little home kitchen and shop the markets there and kind of really live that Balearic lifestyle for a few weeks. That's incredibly appealing. Um, Big, long lunches, um, great wines, things like that. Um, I love Japan, obviously. Who doesn't love Japan? but the idea of spending some more time there in a smaller city, maybe away from the hustle and bustle of Tokyo or Osaka, um, and really connecting with real local Japanese food and cooking is very exciting. Um, oh man, what else? Obviously, Middle Eastern food is incredible. So many great spices and flavors, especially in relation to vegetables. I'd love to really travel more there. Syrian food is some of the best food in the world. So hopefully there'll be a time where we can get to go and taste some real amazing Syrian cooking.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, oh my gosh, so much. Every culture just has so many great indigenous ingredients and methods and techniques. I'd love to just travel and see them all.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to Mallorca next summer. So if you guys want to meet up, just let me know. I would love to cook and feast with you and your girlfriend. And then I've been really craving not just going to Turkey, but to go to identify a few of the islands. Because it's how people are cooking on those islands, how they're grilling the fish, how they're using the vegetables that are growing depending on the season. Like that's what I love. And then seeing their more simplified cooking techniques on those islands, but it adds great flavor. And for me, it's finding those places and remembering how simple and delicious it can be.
So you kind of nailed something that I'm very into is just the idea of cooking over fire in general.
Yes.
So there's something so much more authentic about cooking, meat, fish, veggie over fire as opposed to over a gas flame. And that's really been something that even when I go out to eat at restaurants, that's something that I particularly look for, and that's something that I'm especially interested in. Restaurants that use fire, that cook over fire. There's some great places here, but a place that really is mind-blowingly great is in London. There's a Thai restaurant called Kiln. They are an all wood-fired Thai restaurant, so there is no gas in the kitchen. Every single pot, pan, oil, everything is just cooked over real fire, and there's such an unbelievable character and depth of flavor added. Every single dish is beyond mind-blowing, and really inspiring restaurant in terms of what fire can do to food, and also as a chef and as a cook. So much more, first of all, so much more challenging, but so much more gratifying and rewarding when you get, there's no on off switch and there's no temperature control when you're cooking with fire. You're going with feel. It's almost like the difference between listening to a great CD and listening to a great vinyl record. And when you really hear great vinyl, it just feels different. And that's kind of what fire can do. And you're getting that in Mallorca, and you're getting that in these Turkish islands and things like that. It's very exciting.
Yeah, the food feels different, the food tastes different, and then you walk away feeling different. And
Mhm.
that's what's really important. And then, of course, when we get to work with fire as chefs, it's so much more health supportive than us working with gas and electric. That plays a role in our health because we're breathing that in and it's becoming part of us versus natural fire burning natural wood or coals made from wood as they're traditionally supposed to be. But that's a whole nother lesson in education that we can get into another time.
Mhm.
What has been a great source for you to learn about health supportive cooking and health and wellness and the connection to kind of like spirituality and our being? Where have you picked this up along the way?
Um, oh man, that's a great question. And when thinking back, it's come from a few places. So during my college years, I spent 4 years working for Lululemon. So this is going back quite a while. This is like 2007. Um, they were going through an amazing period of hypergrowth, but that was my first real exposure to the health and wellness world and community. So I remember getting involved in CrossFit and getting exposed to the paleo diet and things like that. And that really um, that that helped and shaped how I learned to cook. And in fact, I remember a funny story when I was going to culinary school. I considered myself a relatively competent cook. I would cook meat at home. I'd go to the butcher shop all the time. We were making cauliflower rice and making all these cool things, but I'd never made basic stuff. I'd never made regular rice. I'd never made a roux or a bechamel. So day one of culinary school, we were taught to just make some simple white rice. I'd never cooked rice before, and I remember the chef thing. You told me you knew how to cook, and I couldn't do any of these basic things, but I knew how to do all these different health hack things. I knew how to make, that was just kind of funny. So my background, my first exposure was during the Lululemon years. Um, I was, and then after that, that just sent me down a rabbit hole of testing and being exposed to different diets. And I got very into like the raw food movement for a little bit when I was thinking about that food and disease connection. Um, and from a young age, I understood how our food supply was essentially messing us up. And I wanted to leave my impact on the food world, and I wanted to change that a little and to maybe make these kind of wacky ideas a little more mainstream and a little more approachable. Now, how do I continue learning and advancing? I have great peers locally and around the country, who are passionate about same kinds of things, and we like to talk a lot and we get together as much as we can and share ideas, and that's very inspiring. I love listening to podcasts and learning. Obviously, I think that's something that everyone should be doing about things that they're interested in. So I'm constantly trying to keep my knowledge sharp. I'm constantly trying to learn new things and understand either new ingredients and techniques that we can be using in our restaurant to make our food healthier and better and support people to live longer, healthier lives. But also me personally in life, I want to learn as many things as I can and make small changes and improvements to make my life better, happier, and to live longer and healthier.
Is there one vegetable or ingredient that you're really into right now?
Um, I feel like the answer has been mushrooms for a long time. Obviously, mushrooms have an amazing meaty quality, so how they can be a player in helping us uh, either eat less meat or make sure the meat that we eat is only super clean. I love mushrooms and what they can do for that. Um, I love broccoli. I'm obsessed with broccoli, in fact. I love telling people how much protein broccoli has, which I think is cool. I love the texture you can get when you roast it. Um, Something fun that we changed about 6 months ago at the restaurants is our guacamole, we're now calling brockamole. So it actually has 50% broccoli, 50% avocado,
No way.
which is really cool. We're using the stems from the broccoli too, which
Yeah.
is cool. So it's a nice way to like repurpose something that maybe either would have gone to waste or wouldn't have been highlighted. So the broccoli stem has a ton of flavor and a ton of protein. So we're roasting the broccoli stem and then blending that into our guacamole. Um, it makes our guacamole have double the protein and half the fat of traditional guac, which sounds cool. It makes it like a zero waste product. It kind of closes that sustainability loop that we're always looking to do, and it makes it freaking delicious. So it's like a triple win.
I love that. So where can people find your Vibe locations and then continue to connect and learn from you?
So at the moment we have three locations, all in Orange County. So our original is in Newport Beach. We have a location in Dana Point and a location in Costa Mesa. The restaurants are open 8 till 8 every day. Um, Hopefully, we'll look to keep growing. So we have our eye on a couple of other areas, and we want to make sure we can expand into LA and San Diego. So that's going to be the focus next year, which I'm very excited about. People can check us out on Instagram at Eat Drink Vibe. We're always posting fun stuff of behind the scenes content and cool videos of us making food and doing fun stuff at work. And yeah, we look forward to seeing everyone.
Can you leave the listener with one last health or food or wellness tip that they can consider adding into their life?
I mean, I could try and think of something cool to say on my own, but there's a quote that I always come back to by a guy, Michael Pollan, that resonates with me. It's eat real food, mostly plants, not too much. And I think that's perfect advice for everyone.
I love that quote too. Well said. Well, thank you, Josh, so much for being on the podcast. It's such a treat, and I can't tell you just how much I hear from people within Orange County on how much they love your restaurant and what you're doing. So thank you for all that you've contributed to, our area and to our food culture. And keep it up. We look forward to seeing more of what you bring to the market.
Thank you, Whitney, for having me. It's been fun, and I look
My
forward to seeing
pleasure.
you soon.